Hello, welcome back. We are at My Louisiana Skies Chapter 16. This is Mr. Daniels with you again. We're back in Seder. Magnolia is there with the family, and they are looking to make that transition into the summer. Let's see how this goes. This chapter will be split into two sections here, so we're going to read halfway, then stop, and then read the other half of 16 right after that. Let's go ahead and get started. At home, dishes were piled in the sink and covered every square inch of the counters. A bad smell came from Mama's room. A sour smell caused from not taking a bath or changing out of that old gown for over a week. The pulled shades darkened her room, making it even more depressing, and a fly buzzed around Mama's sleeping body. It was obvious Miss Eula hadn't done a lick of housework, but she didn't keep her home clean, so we didn't expect her to do anything special to ours. Although she did make 3 blackberry pies from the blackberries I picked before leaving for Baton Rouge. "Lord Almighty!" whispered Magnolia, shaking her head, causing her hat to wiggle. Daddy's ears turned red. I reckon you should have done them dishes, but as soon as I'd get home, Karina wouldn't let me leave her side." Magnolia stood there with her hat sack in her hand and umbrella pointing out like it was an accusing finger. "Well, Mama isn't always like this," I said. "It's just on account of Granny dying." "I've been paid to do a job," said Magnolia, "and I aim to do it." My blood perked at the way Magnolia was looking around our house like we were filthy pigs. When Granny was alive, our house never smelled or looked like this. Suddenly, I felt shame stab me in the gut. "It's my job to do the dishes anyway. I aim to do them directly." Magnolia pursed her lips and looked me up and down like I was white trash. "Mm-hmm." Daddy walked into the bedroom and swatted at the fly. "Karina," he said gently, stroking his fingers through Mama's hair. "Magnolia is here." Mama opened her eyes and looked toward the door. Magnolia just stood there. I held my breath, waiting to see what she was going to say about my mama lying there on those smelly sheets. Instead, Magnolia put her sack down and walked into the room with the biggest smile I'd seen on her face since first meeting her. "Well, hello, Miss Karina. I'm Magnolia." Mama blinked. "Where's Tiger?" I sprang into the room. "Here I am, Mama. See? I told you I'd be back." I kissed her on the cheek and patted her head. The smell was worse up close. Giant circles of sweat under her arms had stained the nightgown. "Mr. Lonnie," said Magnolia, "it's been a long day. I'm getting tired and fading quick. You mind if I settle in today and start fresh tomorrow?" I stepped up for her and spoke before Daddy had a chance. "Of course not. Aunt Dora Kay didn't expect you to start today." My bossy voice surprised me. Magnolia's smile slipped into a frown. "Is your name Mr. Lonnie?" she asked me. Daddy started for the door. "Well, I'll take you now if you want." "That'd be right fine." My first chance to see the colored quarters, and I had to stay with Mama. I headed into the kitchen to wash dishes. Next morning, when the alarm rang at 5:30, I hurried to dress for the day at work. Magnolia was already cooking breakfast in the kitchen. It felt strange to see someone wearing Granny's apron, opening her cabinets, and cooking over her wood stove. "How'd you get here?" I asked. "And good morning to you too, Ann," she said, stirring a bowl of batter. "I done walked. Ain't nothing but a little piece. Get to see one of the good Lord's miracles that way." "What miracle?" "Oh, the sunrise. Pinks, purples, oranges. The Lord knows He how to bless you each day. Your Granny knowed how to keep that kitchen. Ain't had to hunt for anything." She poured hot cake batter into the frying pan. "I like your Mama and Daddy. They's good people." "Seems like a girl has everything she want around here. Mom and Dad that love her, fine home, excepting I'd want a birdhouse or two if it be mine." I stayed quiet while she flipped golden hotcakes in the skillet. Your aunt ain't never home enough to get a man. Why do you think she'd be home? Why you think she'd be home for you? She was starting to remind me of nosy old Miss Eula. When I was sure Daddy wasn't inside, I said, Aunt Doreen wouldn't have asked me if she didn't want me. Besides, Mama can't take care of me. Take care of you? You big girl. When I was your age, my mama laid down and died. World done wore her out. I had 5 younger brothers and sisters to take care of, and I done it. Your family needs you. Anyway, your mama gonna get out of bed one of these days soon. You wait and see. It was almost a relief to hear Daddy announce it. It was time to leave for the Thompsons. My stomach fizzled. I hadn't seen Jesse Wade since I told him to leave me alone. There was a good chance I wouldn't see him anyway because he slept late on summer mornings, and as long as I'd known him, he'd never had much to do with the nursery. That's what I thought anyway. We hadn't taken 2 steps from the pickup when Jesse Wade ran up to us. His curly hair was flat on one side from where he'd slept on it, and his eyes looked puffy. "Morning," he said, bending over with his hands on his knees, trying to catch his breath. When he straightened, he looked at me, and his eyes grew as big as a cow's. My hands flew to my hair. "Good morning, Jesse Wade," Daddy said. "You're right up and at 'em early." Jesse Wade looked at me when he spoke. "Daddy says he could use my help, with the Louisiana Lady Camellias and all." I looked the other way. Otis was dragging a long hose over to a bunch of small camellias planted in a field. Mr. Thompson drove up the green car. Lonnie, you think you can show my son how to do some work here? He hasn't sweated a day in his life, but I think he's capable." Jesse Wade turned red and felt a twinge of pity for him. Yes, sir, Mr. Thompson," said Daddy. "I'm heading out to Dallas to see a man about the Louisiana ladies. Be back in a few days. Keep an eye on things for me, will you?" Yes, sir, Mr. Thompson. I've been mighty proud to keep an eye on things." "Good to see you, Tiger." Mr. Thompson studied me a second, then said, "Tiger, you sure look different for some reason. I guess you're growing up." Mr. Thompson was so excited about those Louisiana Lady Camellias, he didn't even realize I'd cut off 2 feet of my hair. He drove off, kicking up a cloud of red dust as his car sped away. For a second, Jesse Wade and I stood there looking at each other. Then Daddy said, "Well, let's get to work." Shorty Calhoun and Milton Lambert were leaning against the post when we walked up to them. "Morning," Daddy said, his head lowered. Shorty sniggered. "Lonnie, this is a plant nursery, not a kitty nursery." He poked Milton in the ribs, and they both laughed. Daddy's ears turned red as he walked away like a boy trying to avoid 2 bullies. Only I didn't see what was so scary about Shorty Calhoun, who was about an inch shorter than me. And Milton, he could never catch anybody on account of the polio that had crippled up his left leg. Both men had a reputation for drinking too much on Saturday nights at the Wigwam Honky Tonk. Granny had said Shorty had to spend the night in jail because he cut a man's earlobe off with a broken beer bottle. She'd said, "When that man gets to drinking, he thinks he's 6 feet tall." We'd had a good laugh over it then, but today there was something that bothered me in the way he looked at Daddy. We're going to go ahead and stop right there for a halfway point of this chapter and pick up in the next part right after this. Quick commentary about this. I think it speaks a lot about Daddy and his character. Mr. Thompson's leaving for the weekend, and he's definitely allowing Lonnie Parker, Tiger's dad, to take care of things and to watch over things. Tiger's dad may not be the best at writing checks or math or school, but I tell you one thing he does well is farm. And for him to look over the farm at Mr. Thompson's house, certainly Mr. Thompson would trust him with that. And Tiger and Jesse Wade, they're back at it. There hasn't really been an apology yet. I wonder if that might be coming. I don't know. Tiger's definitely feeling rotten for the way she treated him at the last time they met. Anyways, we're going to go ahead and close up here and pick up the last half of the chapter 16 and the next section. Thank you so much for listening.